That's precisely what our latest findings suggest, Dr. Vixtal stuttered, her crystalline form clouding with embarrassment. We've been analyzing the evolutionary patterns of sapient species across known space, and humans are, well, they're an anomaly. A rather significant one. The gathered delegation of alien representatives shifted uncomfortably in their anti-gravity seats. The annual Galactic Species Summit wasn't supposed to drop bombshells like this, but here they were, learning that the newest members of their interstellar community were essentially an evolutionary impossibility. Define anomaly, rumbled Garce, the Mantadine representative, his mandibles clicking with skepticism. Dr. Vixtal projected a holographic display showing various evolutionary trees. Every other spacefaring species evolved from prey animals. It's a pattern we've observed across thousands of worlds. Prey species develop intelligence as a survival mechanism, eventually leading to technological advancement. But humans... She highlighted Earth's evolutionary chart. Humans are descended from pursuit predators. A collective murmur rippled through the chamber. Ambassador Crix couldn't help but laugh, a sound like wind chimes in a storm. Are you suggesting we accidentally invited apex predators into galactic society? Not just apex predators, Dr. Vixtal continued, her crystalline form now pulsing with excited colors. They're persistence hunters. Do you know what that means? They chase things until they die? Offered a tentacled delegate from the back. Precisely. But it's more than that. Humans evolved to literally run their prey to death. They would pursue animals until they collapsed from exhaustion. This required not just physical endurance, but problem-solving skills, pattern recognition, and most importantly, she paused for effect, an absolutely terrifying level of determination. Lieutenant Marcus Rodriguez, the human representative who had been quietly enjoying the show from his seat, finally spoke up. You guys really didn't know this? I thought our historical records were pretty clear about the whole hunting mammoths with pointy sticks thing. The chamber fell silent as all eyes, optical sensors, and sensory organs turned to him. We thought those were exaggerations, admitted Ambassador Crix. Like your action movies, Rodriguez grinned. Nope, completely accurate. We literally stabbed giant animals with spears and then followed them around until they couldn't run anymore. Did it for thousands of years. Still do it for fun sometimes, actually. We call it persistence hunting or endurance hunting. Dr. Vixtal's form flickered anxiously. That's not even the most concerning part. Humans are also one of the few species we've encountered that develop tools specifically for warfare before achieving space travel. Oh, come on, Rodriguez chuckled. Everyone must have had some form of weapons development. Negative, chirped the AI representative, X0. Most species develop defensive technologies in response to natural predators or environmental hazards. The concept of creating tools specifically to harm other members of one's own species is unique to Earth. A bit concerning? Garx's mandibles clicked rapidly. Your species invented something called a nuclear weapon before you even reached your moon. Do you know what the standard technological progression is supposed to be? Solar power, then space exploration, then nuclear fusion. Not, let's figure out how to split atoms to destroy cities. In our defense, Rodriguez said, raising his hands placatingly. We did eventually figure out the peaceful uses for nuclear power and space exploration. And we haven't had a major war in decades. That's another thing, Dr. Vixtal interjected. Your species' definition of major war is vastly different from the galactic standard. What you call minor conflicts would be considered catastrophic events by most civilizations. The chamber erupted in excited chatter, with various delegates sharing stories they'd heard about human history. Rodriguez sat back, alternating between amusement and mild concern as he listened to alien species discuss humanity's apparently unusual development. Remember when they first joined the Council? Ambassador Crix mused loudly enough to be heard over the chaos. We thought their request for combat-ready ships was just paranoia. Speaking of ships, Rodriguez interjected, I've always wondered why everyone was so impressed with our vessel designs. They're pretty basic compared to some of your technology. Dr. Vixtal's colors shifted to a deep blue of realization. Because you're the only species that designed ships with the assumption that they might need to fight. Everyone else just made ships that could travel through space. Wait, Rodriguez sat up straighter. You're telling me that none of you designed your ships with combat capabilities? At all? Why would we? Asked a confused-looking gelatinous being. Space is vast. The likelihood of hostile encounters was considered negligible. Rodriguez pinched the bridge of his nose. So, when we submitted our ship designs with point defense systems, armor plating, and emergency protocols, we thought you were being ridiculously overcautious, Ambassador Crix finished. Now I'm beginning to think we were the naive ones. A small insectoid delegate raised an appendage. But surely this explains some things, like why humans are the only species that insisted on developing emergency evacuation protocols for space stations. Or why they're the only ones who immediately asked about weapon restrictions in diplomatic zones, added another. Or why they have something called martial arts for entertainment, chittered a third. Rodriguez couldn't help but laugh. Hold on, are you saying other species don't have any form of recreational combat sports? The blank stares he received were answer enough. Well, this is awkward, he muttered. I probably shouldn't mention boxing, or wrestling, or MMA. What's MMA? Asked Ambassador Crix, his curiosity getting the better of him. Mixed martial arts. It's where two humans voluntarily enter an enclosed space and attempt to either knock each other unconscious or force the other to submit through various fighting techniques. The chamber fell silent again, this time with a distinctly horrified feel to it. And this is entertainment? Dr. Vixtal asked weakly. Oh yeah, huge sport. Multiple leagues, massive audiences, lots of money involved. It's actually one of our tamer combat sports when you think about it. I mean, we used to have gladiatorial combat. Used to? Squeaked a delegate. Yeah, we eventually decided that was a bit too violent, moved on to more regulated forms of combat sports. Though I guess roller derby could technically count as gladiatorial. I think, Ambassador Crix said carefully, we might need to revise some of our assumptions about human integration into galactic society. Dr. Vixtal nodded, her crystalline form now showing swirling patterns of concern and fascination. Indeed, though I must admit this does explain their surprisingly effective handling of the Proxima Centauri piracy incident. Rodriguez perked up. Oh yeah, that was a fun one. First time we'd encountered actual space pirates. Everyone thought we were crazy for pursuing them into the asteroid field. Because you were, several delegates shouted in unison. Hey, it worked, didn't it? Nobody expected us to actually follow them in there. Classic persistence hunting, if you ask me. Just in space. The AI representative X0 hummed thoughtfully. This does raise an interesting point. While the human predisposition toward combat and conflict is concerning, it has provided unexpected benefits to galactic society. The piracy incident was resolved with minimal casualties, and their security protocols have already prevented several potential disasters. Plus, Rodriguez added with a grin, we're really good at organizing sports leagues. Speaking of which, who's up for starting the first Galactic Olympic Games? The horrified expressions returned. Don't worry, he assured them. We'll start with something simple. Maybe zero-gravity basketball? Though I should warn you, we've been practicing that one since the 20th century. Ambassador Crix's translucent form rippled with what might have been laughter. I believe we're beginning to understand why your species has a saying about humanity being their own worst enemy. You're literally the only species that needed to develop that concept. True, Rodriguez acknowledged. But we're also our own best friends. Nobody parties quite like humans either. Is that why you insisted on including recreational facilities in all long-range vessel designs? Dr. Vixtal asked. Partially. Also because humans get really cranky without regular exercise. Something about being persistence predators means we need to stay active. You should see what happens to humans who don't get enough physical activity. We literally get depressed. Your species requires physical exertion to maintain mental health? A medical officer in the back asked, suddenly interested. Oh yeah, big time. Why do you think we invented sports in the first place? Had to do something with all that predatory energy once we figured out agriculture. The medical officer began furiously taking notes, mumbling something about revolutionary implications for xenobiology. I believe, Ambassador Crix announced, that this meeting has been most enlightening. I move to create a special committee for reviewing human integration protocols with a focus on leveraging their unique capabilities. Agreed, Dr. Vixtal said. Though perhaps we should also consider establishing some guidelines about human recreational activities. I'm still not entirely comfortable with the concept of this roller derby. Rodriguez raised his hand. Quick question. How do you all feel about paintball? The chamber erupted in chaos once again. Later that day, as the delegates filed out of the chamber, Ambassador Crix pulled Rodriguez aside. You know, when your species first joined the Council, many thought it was a mistake. Some feared you were too aggressive, too unpredictable. But now I'm beginning to think the galaxy needed a species like humanity. Rodriguez smiled. Because we're good at fighting pirates? Because you're good at preparing for the worst while hoping for the best. The galaxy has been peaceful for so long that we forgot it might not always be that way. Humanity reminds us to stay vigilant. That's probably the nicest way anyone's ever described our paranoia and violence-based entertainment. Speaking of entertainment, Crix's form sparkled with interest. Would you mind explaining this paintball concept in more detail? Purely for academic purposes, of course. Rodriguez's grin widened. Ambassador, I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship. Ever heard of Capture the Flag? As they walked away, Dr. Vixtal watched them go, her crystalline form cycling through colors of worry and amusement. She made a note to update the official Galactic Species database with a new category. Warrior Species, Approach with Caution, and Sporting Equipment. The next week, the Galactic Council received its first proposal for an interspecies paintball tournament. Surprisingly, it passed with only minimal opposition, though there was considerable debate about whether allowing humans to organize it constituted a violation of the Geneva Convention. Rodriguez just smiled. Sometimes being the galaxy's first recognized warrior species had its perks, even if it meant occasionally having to explain why humans considered tracking and shooting each other with paint-filled projectiles to be fun. At least he hadn't mentioned laser tag yet. You want us to what? Lieutenant Rodriguez stared at the holographic display, wondering if his universal translator was malfunctioning. Ambassador Crix's translucent form rippled with what Rodriguez had come to recognize as barely suppressed excitement. We want humans to train our species in defensive tactics. The Galactic Council voted on it last night. Let me get this straight, Rodriguez said, leaning back in his chair. 3 months ago, everyone was freaking out because they discovered we're basically space predators. Now you want us to teach combat classes? Precisely! Dr. Vixtal's crystalline form sparkled as she entered the room. After the success of the interspecies paintball tournament, you mean the event that ended with half the delegates hiding in the maintenance ducts and the Mantidean team attempting to build fortifications out of the refreshment tables? Rodriguez interrupted. Yes, that one, she continued unfazed. It demonstrated something fascinating about humans. You're remarkably good at teaching non-predator species to think tactically while maintaining safety protocols. Rodriguez pinched the bridge of his nose. We literally spent the first hour explaining that building bunkers out of snack foods wasn't regulation play. But you did it patiently, Crix pointed out. And everyone survived! The bar for success is surprisingly low here, isn't it? The door chimed, and X0, the AI representative, glided into the room. Actually, Lieutenant, the survival rate was a significant factor in the Council's decision. Historical data suggests that when most predator species attempt to train non-predator species, the casualty rates are suboptimal. I'm sorry, what other predator species? Rodriguez sat up straighter. Oh, did we forget to mention? Dr. Vixtal's colors shifted to embarrassed purple. We've discovered 3 other predator-descended species in the past week. Turns out your existence made us realize we needed to update our classification algorithms. And they're all still stuck in what you would call the medieval period because they keep having wars that reset their technological progress. She paused. One species has invented and lost gunpowder 17 times. Rodriguez whistled. That's impressive in a concerning sort of way. Indeed, X0 hummed. Which is why the Council believes humanity's unique combination of predatory instincts and impulse control makes you ideal instructors. Impulse control? Rodriguez laughed. Have you seen our entertainment programs? Yes, Crix said enthusiastically. Your action movies were part of the proposal. They demonstrate humanity's ability to channel aggressive tendencies into non-destructive outlets. Plus, Dr. Vixtal added, you invented something called laser tag, which simulates combat without any actual risk of harm. That's revolutionary. Rodriguez groaned. I told them not to mention laser tag yet. Oh, it's far too late for that, Crix chuckled. The Arcturian delegation has already requested blueprints for a zero-gravity laser tag arena. The what now? They were very impressed by the paintball tournament, but felt the paint globules in zero gravity were messy. They're not wrong, Rodriguez admitted, remembering the cleanup operation that followed. But why the sudden interest in combat training? The galaxy's been peaceful for centuries, right? The room fell silent. Even X0's usual background hum quieted. Ah, Dr. Vixtal's colors dimmed slightly. That's the other reason for this meeting. We've detected something concerning at the edge of known space. She projected a new hologram showing a sector of space Rodriguez didn't recognize. Strange energy signatures pulsed across the display. 3 days ago, our long-range sensors picked up evidence of artificial structures in previously unexplored space, structures that don't match any known species architecture. And let me guess, Rodriguez said. They don't look particularly friendly. The structures appear to be weapon platforms. X0 confirmed. Very, very large weapon platforms. Well, shit. Rodriguez ran a hand through his hair. No wonder you suddenly want combat training. Why didn't you lead with this? Because, Crix's form rippled anxiously. We needed to understand how humans would react to such news. Your species has a history of responding to threats with either remarkable coordination or unfortunate panic. So this meeting was a test? More of an assessment, Dr. Vixtal said diplomatically. We needed to see if you would immediately suggest military action. Rodriguez laughed. You clearly haven't met our diplomatic corps. We've learned a few things since the 20th century. Though I have to ask, what made you think humans would be good at teaching defense rather than just handling it ourselves? The paintball tournament, all 3 aliens said simultaneously. Seriously? You spent 6 hours teaching a species with no bones how to properly take cover, Crix pointed out, and 2 hours helping photosynthetic beings understand the concept of stealth despite their natural bioluminescence. And don't forget the impromptu lecture on strategic thinking you gave to the Hive Mind Collective, Dr. Vixtal added. They're still processing the concept of fake retreats. That's just basic stuff, Rodriguez protested. Basic to humans, X0 corrected. Revolutionary to species that evolved without predatory instincts. Do you know how long it took the Council races to develop the concept of defensive fortifications? 3,000 years after achieving spaceflight. Rodriguez stared. How did you survive that long? Space is very big, Crix said simply. The chances of hostile encounters were considered negligible until now. Right, Rodriguez sighed. And now that they're not negligible anymore, you want the species that invented both nuclear weapons and padded safety equipment to teach you how to defend yourselves. Precisely. Dr. Vixtal's form brightened. We need instructors who understand both combat and safety protocols. Who better than the species that invented both body armor and bubble wrap? I'm never going to live down mentioning bubble wrap in that meeting, am I? It's fascinating, Crix exclaimed. You created a packing material that doubled as a stress relief toy. That level of dual-purpose thinking is exactly what we need. Rodriguez looked at the hologram of the mysterious weapon platforms again. All right, but we're going to need some ground rules. First, no actual weapons until everyone understands basic safety protocols. Second, we start with defensive tactics only. And third, he grinned, we're definitely building that zero-gravity laser tag arena. The Council anticipated your first 2 conditions, X0 said. The third was actually suggested by the Arcturian delegation. They've already submitted construction plans. Efficient, Rodriguez noted approvingly. But what about the mystery structures? While we're teaching everyone self-defense, someone needs to investigate those. Already arranged, Dr. Vixtal said. A joint expedition is being organized. The Council felt that combining human tactical experience with our various species' scientific expertise would be prudent. Smart. When do we start? The first training sessions begin next week. We've converted the diplomatic reception hall into a preliminary training facility. Rodriguez raised an eyebrow. Please tell me someone removed the anti-gravity fountain first. The silence was deafening. Right, he sighed, standing up. First lesson, proper facility preparation. X0, could you pull up the building schematics? Dr. Vixtal, we're going to need an inventory of anything breakable. Crix, find out who's in charge of maintenance. Something tells me they're about to get very busy. As they filed out of the room, Crix turned to Rodriguez. You know, when we first discovered humans were pursuit predators, many of us were terrified. Now I'm starting to think the galaxy got lucky. You're probably the only predator species neurotic enough about safety to teach combat without accidentally killing your students. I'm choosing to take that as a compliment, Rodriguez said, though you might want to wait until after the first laser tag tournament before making any final judgments. Speaking of which, how do the Arcturians feel about capture the flag? They're still trying to understand why anyone would want to capture a flag in the first place. Perfect. That's next week's lesson, right after we teach everyone how to fall properly. Humans have specific techniques for falling? Trust me, Ambassador, you haven't seen anything yet. Wait until we get to parkour. The aliens exchanged worried glances. Somewhere in the distance, a crash indicated that someone had already discovered the anti-gravity fountain's potential as a tactical obstacle. Rodriguez smiled. Sometimes being the galaxy's designated combat instructors had its perks, even if it meant occasionally having to explain why humans considered falling an art form. At least he hadn't mentioned paintball grenades yet. Parkour was a mistake, Lieutenant Rodriguez muttered, as he watched a gelatinous collective attempt to wall run in the newly constructed training facility, the blob-like being splattered against the surface before reforming with what could only be described as embarrassed ripples. I disagree, Exero hummed cheerfully. Their spatial awareness has improved by 47% since the introduction of advanced movement techniques. They're literally leaving bits of themselves on the walls. Yes, but they're leaving smaller bits than last week. Rodriguez couldn't argue with that logic. The past month of training various alien species in basic combat and defensive techniques had been interesting. The zero-gravity laser tag arena had proven surprisingly successful, once they'd convinced the photosynthetic species that glowing brightly while trying to sneak around was counterproductive. His comm unit buzzed. Ambassador Crick's excited voice filled his ear. Lieutenant, you need to see this. Meeting room 7, immediately. Please tell me nobody tried to weaponize the coffee machine again. No. This is about the expedition to the edge of known space. They've made contact. Rodriguez was running before Cricks finished speaking. When he arrived at the meeting room, he found it packed with council representatives, all clustered around a holographic display. Dr. Vixtal's crystalline form pulsed with nervous energy as she manipulated the controls. The expedition team just transmitted this footage. Well, see for yourself. The hologram showed what appeared to be a massive space station, but its architecture was unlike anything Rodriguez had seen before. The structure seemed to be composed of interlocking geometric shapes that occasionally shifted and reconfigured themselves. Is it supposed to move like that? He asked. Unknown, Exo replied. But that's not the most interesting part. Watch. The footage continued, showing the expedition's attempt to communicate with the station. Standard greeting protocols, transmitted in all known languages. The response came in perfect galactic standard. Finally, someone who knows how to play the game. The room fell silent. Please tell me that's not as ominous as it sounds, Rodriguez said. Dr. Vixtal's colors shifted to worried purple. It gets worse. They sent another message right after that one. The hologram shifted to display the text. Your species have been selected as participants in the grand tournament. Preparation time. 3 standard months. Failure to participate will result in immediate disqualification and planetary reclamation. Well, Rodriguez said after a long moment. I guess we know why they built those weapon platforms. This is unprecedented, a delegate shouted from the back. We're peaceful species. We can't participate in some sort of cosmic gladiatorial combat. Actually, Crix's form rippled thoughtfully. We might not be as unprepared as you think. Lieutenant, how many species have completed basic combat training? Rodriguez checked his tablet. Surprisingly, most of them. Turns out when you frame combat training as an elaborate game with safety protocols, even peaceful species get competitive. The Arcturians are actually leading the zero-gravity laser tag rankings. And the mysterious structures we detected? Based on this footage, they're probably automated arenas or observation posts, which means we've accidentally been training for exactly this scenario. Dr. Vixtal finished, her colors brightening with realization. Not accidentally, Exo corrected. The timing is too perfect. I suspect these beings have been watching us, waiting for the right moment to issue their challenge. The paintball tournament, Rodriguez groaned. That's why they contacted us now. They saw us teaching combat sports to peaceful species and decided we were ready. But ready for what? Someone asked. As if in answer, another message appeared. Terms and conditions of the grand tournament follow. All matches will be conducted using non-lethal simulation technology. Victory conditions include territorial control, strategic objectives, and style points. Style points? Several voices echoed incredulously. Rodriguez couldn't help laughing. Oh my god, they're not invasion forces, they're game developers. The room erupted in confused chatter. Think about it, he continued. The shifting architecture. Perfect for creating different arena layouts. The weapon platforms. Probably just really elaborate laser tag equipment. They're not here to conquer us. They want to turn the galaxy into some kind of giant competitive sports league. But why? Dr. Vixtal asked. Entertainment, Rodriguez suggested. Maybe they're an ancient species that got bored with traditional conquest and decided to spice things up. Or they could be cosmic reality show producers. This is absurd, a delegate protested. We can't just... Another message appeared. Correct, human lieutenant. The Grand Tournament is the ultimate evolution of competitive sport. We have watched your species teach others the joy of recreational combat. You understand the game. Called it, Rodriguez muttered. Ambassador Crix's form was practically vibrating with excitement. Do you realize what this means? All our training wasn't just preparation for defense. It was qualifying rounds. And the paintball tournament was probably our audition tape, Rodriguez finished. No wonder they contacted us right after. We showed we could teach combat techniques safely to multiple species. The room fell silent as yet another message scrolled across the hologram. Humanity has been designated as team captains and trainers for the inaugural season. Please prepare your species accordingly. First event, capture the flag, Zero Gravity Edition. Well, Rodriguez said, trying not to smile too broadly. I guess we know what we're doing for the next 3 months. X-Arrow, how's that laser tag arena coming along? Construction is 89% complete. The Arcturians have added several interesting modifications to the original design. Perfect. Dr. Vixtal, we're going to need to step up the parkour training. Even for the Gelatinous Collective? Especially for them. Their ability to split into multiple smaller units could be a huge advantage and capture the flag. He paused, though maybe we should invest in some special effects cleanup equipment. And the photosynthetic species? Crix asked. Tell them to embrace the glow. If we can't make them stealthy, we'll make them fabulous. Style points are apparently a thing now. As the room buzzed with excited planning, Rodriguez couldn't help but think that this was possibly the weirdest first contact scenario in human history. Then again, humanity had spent thousands of years developing ways to fight each other without actually killing each other. Maybe this was exactly what they'd been preparing for all along. One last thing, he announced to the room. Nobody tell them about paintball grenades yet. Let's save something for the playoffs, the end.